Hello and welcome. I'm April Frazier. I am talking today with Shapiro, author of Loving Yourself Isn't Selfish. And we're talking about her growth journey and what that's all about. And Shell, I am super excited. Been thinking about this conversation and how good it's going to be for other women to see your story. This is why we put this together and we thought about it. And just thank you so much for being willing to be seen and to allow other people to honor your story.
Yeah, thank you again for inviting me to do this and to share my story with other women. Um, it's really been a transformational journey for me. I would say 6 months, a year, even 18 months long, and it's still going on. So, some of the experiences that I talk about in my book and some of the experiences that are not in the book, I'm still growing and learning from, and they're very relevant to other women too. I think a lot of people can resonate with it.
Absolutely. Okay, so I've read the book. We'll just dive right in, shall we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I've read the book, self-published, you all, and the first thing that came up when we talked, when we were talking about this book, first thing that came up, you said it was uncomfortable to write.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. It's uncomfortable for me. It was uncomfortable for me. It still is, and I lived it. So I can only imagine what readers are going to think the first time that they read through it. Maybe even if they don't get through it all in one shot, um, because so much of what I talk about was buried for so long. I didn't even know it was down in there. Uh, that when it came up, there was no way that I could just stuff it back down again. I had been silenced for too long. And so, as the stories are told, as my experiences unfold, and people can now hear about them, see, my cat is chiming in too because she's like, "Yeah, you tell your story." Um, she probably will do that, continue to do that. She's like my best cheerleader. But as the stories unfold and as people hear them for the first time, second time, 10th time, uh, I think there's something to learn every time you hear it. I'm never going to tell it exactly the same. I might include details that I forgot to tell the first time around. And that's because I'm still processing. Things are still coming up that I'm like, oh yeah, that happened too. This was connected to this. This relates to that. No wonder I do all this, that, and the other. It's just, it keeps going. It keeps growing, and I need to keep telling it and talking about it more and more.
I'm happy that you mentioned that because one thing that for as a coach and as a woman and as a human, I'm consistently fascinated by is the idea that stuff in us that we don't know is in us that informs our way of showing up, informs our survival mechanism, informs the choices we make that we're not even conscious to. And when you and I first talked, I think it was like our first or second conversation, we talked about the ocean, we talked about floating, we had all these nautical analogies about things coming up, and I think it's really interesting that you're speaking to that right now. I'm curious, why did you need? I guess the other piece too that just came up is the awareness that you have now that writing the book was for you and for other people. And why did you have to do this uncomfortable project? Why?
I touched on this a little bit in the previous question that you asked, and I just want to dive into it even more now. I was silenced for a really long time, and that was my own silence, like the stuff that I put onto myself and the messages that I interpreted from everyone else around me. And the continuous message, whether it was external or internal, was that I needed to suck it up. I needed to be the bigger person. I just needed to keep going. Things would get better. This is how it is. Whatever the thing was, the message was always the same. And so I stayed behind the scenes. I stayed quiet. Even when I spoke up, I still felt like I'm shouting and it's just bouncing off the wall and then falling. It's like throwing spaghetti up against a wall. Like we've all heard that expression, but I was just waiting for something to stick. I was waiting for even for someone to come and rescue me, to hear my cry for help. And I realized a year and a half ago, yeah, almost 2 years now, I realized nobody's going to save me. I need to save myself. And you mentioned that we talk about like the ocean and drowning and flailing and trying to like stay afloat in the ocean. That, yes, that has to do with my branding a lot, but that has to do with like the feelings that I was feeling all the time. Like I was gasping for air. I was like not doing a great job treading water. Like these things come up over and over again for me because I'm so tied to the water and because that's the way that I relate. It's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me afloat. So yeah, the why is because I couldn't do it anymore. I needed to save myself. And in doing so, maybe saving somebody else isn't the right way to phrase it, but like I want somebody else to have that awareness, to gain the awareness and be like, oh crap, like that's what's going on with me too. Or I can relate to that, or I shouldn't do this. Like, let me learn from her. And so as much as I'm helping myself and I'm saving myself, I really want to protect and save others.
Yeah. You mentioned you have several experiences in your book. You stayed at the job, you had the job and you stayed there even though you mentioned, I mean, you don't say this explicitly, but that you hated it. You do say I was burnt out, I was sick, both physically and mentally. I'm looking at page 15. I didn't have any boundaries in place or know what they even look like. And I was also still very much so in need of healing for myself.
Yeah. I mean, that's powerful to like hear somebody else read my own words too. It's not that I hated my job because there were definitely aspects of it that I loved. I mean, I stayed for 13 years. Like there must have been something there. Um, and honestly, like if I'm being honest with myself as well as everybody else, like I liked being needed. I liked that feeling of people coming to me and asking for help. Um, what I didn't like was that when I asked for help in return, it was never met. Like it was never reciprocated. And that's when I started to drown. It was like, just keep inundating me with all the things. And even when I realized that I could ask for help and that I needed it, there was no one in sight. Everyone kind of just like ran for the hills and was like, nope, you keep doing it. Just stick it out. And it was a battle cry for like myself, but like I really, really did reach out to other people and let them know like things are not right. There's a lot going on here and it's not just with me. And yeah, it's I didn't hate my job. I just hated there were a lot of things that I could not sit with anymore or stand with.
How did you know you were at that breaking point?
I definitely mentioned this in the book as well, so thank you for bringing it up. I gave myself a test. Like there was one day where I just like needed a me day, and I had been needing one for a while, but like I still felt really tied to work. I didn't want to let people down. I felt like the ability to which I was able to do my job would bring validation and keep people needing me, but at the same time, like show how good I was at everything. But like I really needed to separate myself. And so I talk about operation separation,
Ah,
where
yes.
I
I
can,
love that you named it, which
yeah,
I love it.
like let's go covert here. I've watched a lot of like reality TV shows and even like detective shows. Like, no, this was my mission. I was on a mission to see if I could allow myself to relax, allow myself to separate, to turn off social media, to turn off my work email, to turn off like my phone, even for periods of time, and just be. Allow myself to try to catch up on sleep where I wasn't constantly in a panicked state of like, what did I forget to do? And then dreaming about work that didn't actually exist. Um, so I gave myself 2 weeks and no one at work knew that I was doing this. My boyfriend was the only one that I told because somebody needed to know in case something had happened to me. Like I needed somebody to be like, all right, like if anything goes wrong, here's what's going on with me. Um, like a safety precaution. And even my family didn't know. I told no one, but I knew that I needed the time off and I planned for it accordingly. Like I set things in motion at work behind the scenes. I made sure it was on the calendar. I also knew very clearly that nobody looked at the calendar to save their life. So they wouldn't even realize that I was gone until I was gone. But like I had spreadsheets, I left work and like details and notes on the folders, inside the folders, in the actual files on the computer. Like
Wait.
everywhere you could think, I was like, let me cover all my bases so that nobody could say I left them high and dry. And then when I actually took the time off, I think it was like an hour after I like would normally have shown up at work and my phone was going nuts. My phone was going nuts. And my boss kept calling. Where are you? Call me back. Why aren't you answering? Then somebody else at my office. What's going on? Why didn't you tell me you weren't coming in? How come you didn't let anybody know? And like, I literally just hid under my blanket for like a good 2 hours before I even responded to them because I was like, nope, this is what I was afraid of. Like, I can't just dive right back in. They have to like, there has to be some sort of separation. And like, you always expect me to be on, always, like even on weekends if something was going wrong, I was expected to like run to the office and take care of it. I was expected to hop on a call. Yeah.
So let me slow you down a minute because what you're speaking to, it sounds like you're pretty high functioning. Like you're the person people go to. You get it done, and you'll stay up late, and you'll stay late, and you'll do whatever. You spreadsheets. You actually enabled your coworkers and everybody with like if they bothered to actually go look, you'd prep them, right? And the idea, but also I want to call out the idea that you made yourself indispensable, which is what I experience in my journey as a coach and as a human and as a woman. What I experience is high functioning women, multi hyphenate women who are very good at doing things.
Yeah.
That's pretty common. How did you create that situation? Because for them it's good.
For them it's always good, right? I was doing the things. I was a workhorse. I would bend over backwards. Like I was like there there's that movie with Hugh Grant, and he's hired somebody. I can't. Sandra Bullock is the actress, and she's like, yeah, I'm like that twisty bobcat pretzel type, like. And she was talking about herself in the bedroom, but like, no, that was me at work. I was like, I would do any kind of like acrobatic stunt that needed to happen in order to make the miracle, in order to not let the ball drop, in order to not let the table fall over. And so yeah, spreadsheets are my jam. And I'm not good. I love numbers. I'm not good with math, but like I just like something about seeing things all in order. And these weren't new. This was something that I did on the regular for people. So talk about not having boundaries. Like this was also people pleasing. Like I did everything humanly possible to make sure that I was always making other people happy. Well, what about me?
Whoa, but gotta stop you because you hit on that topic of like people pleasing is a very unhappy word. But I think what I want to call out is that it comes from a place of wanting to, or maybe I should ask the question, like, where does that people pleasing come from? Because I hear women commonly say, I don't have time, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough of something, I'm not enough of something. And a lot of times it comes from, they will even use the term people pleasing. What would you say to other women who recognize themselves, self-identify, or maybe even identify as results of hearing your story as a people pleaser? Like what would you say to them from your own journey?
For me, people pleasing was really it came from a good place. It came from a place of me genuinely wanting to help other people. And that's something that is rooted deep in me. Like I mean, that's part of my journey still, is like this need and genuine desire to like want to help other people be better. But people pleasing becomes toxic, at least for me it did, when it becomes about like people pleasing and doing something for somebody else just for the sake of doing it. Like maybe they didn't even ask me to do it. I was never asked. Or I'm doing it and then I'm resenting it. Like I don't actually want to do the thing. I just think it's going to make them better. Like wanting to fix somebody or something for somebody. And so when I think about people pleasing, it's, have I been asked to do it? Do I actually want to do it? Like, do I feel compelled to do this thing for somebody and say yes to it, so that I'm not resentful? And if it's not one or both of those things, then I'm people pleasing. Then I'm just doing it and no good can come from it.
I love that you're when I first met you, I remember thinking she's really insightful. I don't say that lightly because the introspection was always there. So it's interesting as I read your book and as I've coached you and talked with you that there even as introspective as you are, there are blind spots, right, that you didn't see until it's like those moments of like, oh, it really does happen like that. You're just like, oh, I didn't see that. And as you're talking about people pleasing, recognizing, asking yourself even those questions like, why am I doing this? I experience women so much as anticipatory. We're able to anticipate, like, this is what you're going to need. And some of it is interpretational, obviously, right? And some of it's knowing our audience. And some of it is, just as you said, it's that people pleasing element. But it always comes from a good place. And for you to notice it now, I think it's so, how has it changed how you show up today?
I really have to check myself. And I've surrounded myself with a great support system of women just like yourself who are able to slow me down. You know what? We've done it in this call. Like I, and to your point also that like we anticipate things. We anticipate the need, usually before somebody is even asked for it. This is problem solving. This is part of being a high functioning woman, high performing, high functioning. Like we problem solve and we creative problem solve and we have solutions for problem A, B, all the way through Z, and then some for every possible situation and outcome that could happen. And so as you've slowed me down quite a bit during our talks, realizing that I don't need to attach to any particular outcome. I can just let it go. I can just let it happen naturally. And if I don't have a solution right away, that doesn't mean I'm not going to solve it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to find a solution because I'm still quick on my feet, right? So it's separating from that outcome because that's what keeps those expectations there. Whether again, they're my expectations that I project outward or they're external that I then internalize.
Can we just talk about that though? Because I can't tell you how many times I have said to myself, oh, this is what needs to be done. And it was for someone else. And it's largely interpretational. And they didn't ask. And I just thought, oh, this would be great. And there's an upside and a downside to it, right? Like sometimes it's just part of who I am. My intuition is like, let's do this.
Yeah.
but checking in, right? And sometimes even asking for permission. Hey, would it serve you if I did this? And allowing them to say yes or no or to give some feedback is super, super useful. I want to talk to you about leaving the job, okay? Because
Yeah.
that's a dream come true for most people, okay? I want to leave this job. And not necessarily the job is bad. Like for me, my job wasn't bad. I wasn't, I was reasonably good at my job. I just hated it, and it had everything to do with alignment for me. It wasn't, I was in a technical position that wasn't in alignment with who I am as a creative and an intuitive and all these different skill sets that I now get to bring to bear for other people and their transformation to serve them. It just wasn't the right fit for me. But I didn't realize it because lack of awareness, and I was doing the thing that I thought I needed to do versus the thing that I really love. And I'm curious, you stayed at the last job for 13 years, long time. Tell me, or we're in the same position or last job, like same kind of role, or this was your last employer you stayed for 13 years.
Uh, the last employer that I had was where I stayed for 13 years. Before that was my first job right out of college. So everything else was like little after school jobs or like my IT position in between college classes. This was like my first full-time, like big girl. Like I need to like be independent and take care of myself and do all the things. And yeah, this was my first big girl job. So thank you for asking this question. It actually brings it back a little bit full circle to your earlier one about operation separation, like leaving the job. So 2 weeks go by after operation separation, and I have gotten a little bit more clear about what needs to happen. I've separated myself. I've distanced. I've put these boundaries in place at least a little bit to like get my footing. And even though I'm not sleeping better and I'm still recovering from all these things, I definitely feel a little bit better. And I had made a promise to myself that if I felt better in those 2 weeks, even the tiniest little bit, now was the time. No time like the present. Right?
Wait. 2 weeks. That's not enough time to like prepare your finances or like, you're talking about stepping back from a paycheck and potentially 401k, like all the benefits of having someone else find the money. Shell, like,
yeah,
that's a very scary concept for people to just walk away. And most people cannot, legit, right? Like, but what was that like for you? Like you knew you had this line in the sand, but the execution.
So yeah, I mean, let me be clear here. I had in my mind ready to leave for quite some time. I had done like a little bit of job searching here, a little bit of job searching there. Like every few years I was like, do I need to switch it up? Maybe I want to shift over here, do something different. I even tried to like grow the business in my own way, meaning the company that I was working for at the time. Like I asked to open up another location in another state because I wanted a change of scenery. And if I'm doing such a great job with my day to day and like running the business, like why would you not want me to help you grow and expand? No, I kind of laughed it off. I had wanted to get training to be able to facilitate other roles and grow the company that way in the same office and location. And no training. Like that was not a thing either. So I had definitely pursued different avenues over time, and I just got to the breaking point of like, I don't even need to have a plan in place anymore. Like I don't even need to know where the money's coming from. If I quit and I'm not eligible for unemployment, then so be it. Like even though they pushed me out, kind of like they made me feel all these horrible things, like this just, it can't go on. I need to change. Something needs to change. And I mentioned earlier also that in some regard, I kept wanting somebody to swoop in and save me, right? Like I watch Hallmark movies, like I watch Disney. The prince always saves the princess. But I'm not a princess anymore.
But Shell, no, but really. Yeah, I think, well, first, I'll say I applaud you for honoring your truth. That you knew you had to leave, you had to figure out some way. And I actually want to call that out for anyone watching and for anyone who watches the replay, that honoring your truth is a critical first step to claiming the life that you want to create. Whatever that is, you got to honor your truth. And sometimes our truth is not in alignment with what other people would do or think or feel about what we're doing. And I'm sure when I was leaving my job, for example, there were some people who were fear-based. Oh my God, what are you going to do? I did have some plan. I'm hearing you say you were just clear, you'd had enough, and you let it go. Is that right?
Yeah. I was just over, it's not the right phrase, because I was still processing, and like I was still in a place of, this is happening to me and I just need to get out, feeling trapped. But I always thought that I was a planner. Up until a few months ago, I thought I was a planner. Like because I have the problem solving creativity, like I have a solution for this, for that, for this, the other. I was conditioned to be that way. And once I realized, yeah, mic drop.
Wait. Can you just say that again? Because I can't tell you how many women I talk to are just like, I want to know all the answers, so I'm going to plan it all to make sure that I have all the answers.
Yeah, but that's a defense mechanism. That was my safety net of like, nothing. I need to mitigate this and have control over it so that no one else can have a say. So I'm going to plan for every single solution so that I always am in control. And yes, in some regard, I want to stay in control. I want to know what's going on with myself. That doesn't mean I need to be in control of everything around me. And whoa, realizing that I am not a planner, that in order to be more aligned with my passion, my mission, anything that I want to do in my life, I need to just let it happen and let it come to me. I need to go with the flow. And I can't do that if I have it all planned out. How can you do that? Like it was a really big realization for me, and something that I can't go back on. And now even when I try to plan and I'm like, do I really want to do that? Like I'll make my to-do list.
I remember our conversation. I don't remember where it was. It was pretty early, and you were just like, you are that multi-hyphenate woman, right? That you wrote a book, you have a career, and you're an entrepreneur, right? And you have these other hats, and you write children's books, and you are actively pursuing speaking engagements, and all these different things that creatively you just, and I remember you saying, I always have a plan. I've got a plan for all these things. And so it's interesting now. What was that? Probably December or January, maybe?
Yeah. It might have been, when did we start talking, in October, November? Yeah. November. It was right in the beginning.
Yeah. So to hear you say now in March, not even a year later, like, yeah, I'm not a planner. That's fascinating to me.
I mean, those are still like, they're on my radar, but
sure.
That doesn't mean that I need to be like, so I have like loose plans. I have loose, if you want to call them goals, let's call them goals instead. But like, what planning is just a natural word that comes up for me more than goals. Yep. There's still like loose things that like I want to aspire to, that I want to tackle, that I want to accomplish. But that doesn't mean I need to be actively focusing and thinking about all of those things. I think I listed out like 10 different things for you.
You did have a lot of projects, yeah. But also like the route that you had, like, and I think that's what I'm hearing when you talk about is like you have goals, and I think and many creative ideas, as you develop this awareness, like, I'm not a planner, it doesn't mean a person doesn't have plans. It just means, at least from what you and I have talked about, is like the route. Sometimes people plan very granularly to the route, and that's what I think is interesting, because what I'm hearing you say is you're not as attached to the outcome, and that is to say the route itself, but leaving it open, which
I'm all over the place right now, and that's perfectly okay.
And how's that working out for you? Let's talk about that.
I mean, I'm here, right? It's working out great. I am actively pursuing opportunities. I've been on podcasts. I've written a book in the last month that like previously I never even thought that that would those I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know that it was these stories. Like I didn't have an idea for what that would look like. I do have children's books in the works, like, but there's a time and place for all of those things to happen. They don't all need to happen in the order that I think that they do.
So let me play devil's advocate, acknowledging that the devil doesn't need any more advocates, but just for giggles, right? Someone might say, yeah, but I can't do that, Shell. Like, I can't do what you did. Like, I can't just walk out on a job. I mean, yeah, I hate it, or it's not fulfilling, or some reason that they are feeling motivated to do something else, called to do something else. I can't just walk out, Shell. I need a plan. And, I can't be all over the place. I'm a planner, right? What do you say to that person that is feeling called, drawn to the else, and wants to leave, wants to do something else, but feeling like, yeah, that's you though. That's nice. That's you. I can't do that.
Yeah. So a lot of good things are coming up right now. And so uh on the one hand, it is perfectly okay for you to not follow in my footsteps. My journey is my journey. If you don't feel like you can do what I did and just leave cold turkey, maybe it's not for you. But I would challenge other women who hate their jobs, want to change, want to do something else, even if you don't know what exactly it is yet. You start questioning yourself a little bit more. Start getting clear on like, what do I like doing? What gives me energy? What drains me? What could this look like potentially? You don't have to map it all out. You don't even have to have all the answers all at once. I certainly didn't. Like, I quit without, like, I didn't know how I was going to make ends meet. I had 6 months of savings, like, in my bank account. 18 months later, I'm still going, right? Like, I have made it last. I have made it work. Like, I think there's this fear that there's this scarcity mindset. There's this fear that like, how am I going to make this work? Where's the money going to come from? And I think a lot of women feel this fear. Well, once you're like, well, when I'm aligned with what I do, when you figure out, when you get clear on what the possibilities could be, and the possibilities are endless and open up to you, and you're like, oh, damn, there's no other way. There's no turning back now. Like, even if you don't leave your job while you're starting to pursue that, all the good things will just flow. All of the good things will just start coming because you're open to receiving it. When you have that scarcity mindset, when you hold yourself back in that fear of like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, that's all you're going to look for. I didn't know where the money was going to come from, and I still did it. And you know what? I've been able to pay my bills. I've been able to make ends meet. I'm still living in New York City in like an overpriced apartment that like I probably shouldn't be living in. But like when you want something, the money just happens. Like when you are invested in yourself for yourself, or like whether they're things, when whatever it is, the money will work itself out. So like don't let the fear of not knowing how you're going to make ends meet, how you're going to survive, be the thing that holds you back.
Well said. I feel like we could end there. I just, yeah. It's funny because I coached, to your point, I was coaching another woman recently, and she's in one lane, and she's like, I'm going to do this thing. And I said, I've always experienced you as being in a different lane. And I invited her to go play there, just play there for a while. And don't try to take it too seriously, try to figure out how to make money out of it, all that. Just go play there. And she sent me an audio message. She's like, I have more referrals. I have more people coming at me since I stepped into that lane, the one that I really love. And I think I call it out because, to piggyback on what you said, is that letting go of what you know and embracing what you don't know so that you can align to what you love, the money comes, the business comes. Because when anytime we are serving from love, of course you're going to attract. And it may not be what you think it is. It may not be all that you think it should be, but that's the intellectualization of trying to control, when the really beautiful part, and it's hard to see when you're on the other side trying to plan it, but the really beautiful part is the letting go. And I just love that you and I talked about this before, like the floating, the idea of floating. And I remember it because I was cracking up later. Like the conversation was perfect, because to float is to let go, and you're gonna naturally, as a human, you're going to float. In fact, if you try to control the situation, you sink.
Yeah. And I think we talked about that too. Like there were multiple conversations where we talked about feeling like an anchor or like a current was pulling us under. I certainly shared with you my biggest fear about publishing right before I published my book, of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Is that I like people wouldn't understand, they would throw me overboard, like they would, specifically my family, like it'd be a sinking ship. Either the boat would capsize or they'd toss me over. And like, and I put it in terms of water again because it's so relevant to the way that I felt like I was drowning or in fear of like capsizing myself. And what happened? Some of those fears were realized. Some of those fears actually came true,
Mm.
and some of them didn't. But like at the end of the day, like thrown overboard, boat sinking or not, we still swim, we still float, we still come back up.
I know. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's see. I think I covered everything that I was thinking of with reference to wanting to call out the book and making sure. I think the one other thing that comes up is the idea of like being good at something, and because it sounds like you were excellent at your job, you were excellent at your job, and the distinction between being good at something and loving it is a really, really important distinction.
Yeah.
Now you're in a place where, is it, do you love what you're doing now?
Oh, 100%, 200%. I could not, I don't know how I lasted for so long doing stuff that I was just good at, but didn't really like. There's a lot of things that we as women do that are either like we're conditioned to do them, and so we become really good at them. There are things that we do naturally where they are just like ingrained in us. We may or may not like them. And like the difference between those natural things and those things that are conditioned, those second nature things, is like knowing which things you actually like. We do a lot of things and we get resentful. I can certainly speak to this. Like if somebody's not recognizing us for the thing that we're doing that we don't even like doing, like because we're putting in the extra effort to do it when we don't like it. And for a really long time, I didn't realize that like I'm good at it, but I actually don't like it. And that's why I am resentful. That's why I'm getting mad at you for not acknowledging my hard work.
Yeah. I
And
love that you bring that up, because people don't realize, in my programs I help people to see that feelings are a signal. And sometimes we stand in judgment of our feelings. I don't want to feel that, but you do, and you should notice it and notice it and acknowledge it. The idea that there's resentment is a signal that you're doing something you don't want to do. And granted, we all have to do things from time to time that we don't want to do, but we often do more things that we don't want to do. We do more than we have to. And I think that resentment is absolutely one of those signals. So like if you're feeling resentful for giving or for serving or for doing something, like notice that, because that's telling you, that feeling is there to tell you something.
yeah, I mean that's a red flag of like maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And again, recognizing or starting to get really clear on what are those things that you do like doing. Let's do more of that. Let's play over here. And I'll bring it back to like I've been really big on personality um, traits lately. Myers-Briggs, human design, your way of being versus like things that are conditioned and taught. Enneagrams, no, that's really big right now. And also the Gallup assessment that is very popular in the corporate world, for like putting teams together and seeing how people work their best. And the first time I took a Gallup assessment, in particular, of out of all those personality and human design ways of being, there were two main things that came up for me. I'm great at executing, which means I get all the things done. I was like good at almost all of those things in that category. And I was great at relationship building. And so when I first left my job while I was figuring things out, I was compelled to play around in the executing category. Let's explore this more. I'm really good at it. I've been doing it day in and day out. Like this is what I know. Let's keep go 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 go. Like I don't want to stop. Like this is what people know me as. This is how I show up. Um, and then it took a few months, and I think that was when I realized that I couldn't go back to a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Just to bring it on home, like
Yeah.
that was when I realized I didn't want to be some only known for my executing. I'm good at it. I don't like doing it. Like I that's not how I want to show up on people's radar. I'm a relationship builder.
Ooh.
This is where I want to play. This is how I want people to know me.
I applaud you. Can we just take a moment and honor that? Because that felt huge that you recognize I'm good at executing. I don't love it. And I'm going to choose. That word that you use is so powerful. I'm going to choose to play in what I do love.
Yeah, which I'm also really great at doing. It was my other top strength, but it wasn't what people were recognizing me for. It wasn't how I was showing up because everybody just kept wanting more of the executing. This is how I show up now. I'm a relationship builder. I'm a connector. I'm a networker. All things are possible now. This is where I reside.
I think, and before I say this next thing, if you are watching now actively and you have any questions for Shelle, now is the time to go ahead and pop those into the chat. But Shelle, I really want to honor you for being that making that choice, that really conscious choice, because it's a huge game changer. And also the idea that your energy when you speak about what you do now, where you are now, is totally different, and having the contrast of knowing what it was and what it is. And part of my job is to help women see how powerful they are. And when I hear you talk, I hear that power of like, and part of that power is choice. Is you choose to create what you want. And to your point, absolutely, that we can speak, generally speaking, pretty fluidly about what we don't want. I don't want that job. I don't want that kind of guy. I don't want that kind of experience. But to speak to what we do want and to live in the space of what we do want to create gives us that choice. We create that choice. We create time. We create opportunity. We create books. We create, right? And I think I just love that this part of why I just think your story is so compelling, because you are actively creating it from a place of deep choice and awareness and continued awareness. And that's powerful, and it's everything.
And it has taken quite a bit of time to get to even where I am at now, where I can make those conscious decisions, the intentional choices to stay in alignment with who I am and who I want to be going forward. And that also allows me the freedom, this huge freedom, this weight off my shoulders to do whatever I want to do and play. And if that means like that tomorrow I'm going to show up, I'm still going to be Shelle. I'm still going to show up as me in the spaces that are aligned. But like if tomorrow I want to show up and I want to paint, I want to use my creativity. I want to write another book. Like I want to write a poem. I want to like whatever it is. I have the power to choose where I'm going to show up and how. And I don't think I had that before, but I also didn't allow myself to have that before. Because, and you, as you know, you and I have talked about this a lot. I was never in the driver's seat. I was never driving the boat. I was never behind the wheel of the car. I was always the passenger or in the back seat. I was doing for others, not doing for myself. And I didn't take ownership over anything. Even the things that I was doing, I let somebody else take the credit for it. Because on some level, I assumed, not an expectation, but like I assumed, obviously incorrectly, that it would just come back. Like whatever I put out there, whatever I do is like I'm going to see a return of my efforts. And that is true when you are open to receive. And I had that roadblock up. So I wanted
Ooh.
it. I said I wanted it. I certainly think I deserved it. I'm worth it. I am entitled to all of those things, but I could not allow myself to take it. I couldn't even like receive a compliment without deflecting and being like, "Oh, you didn't have to say that. Like, it's actually, oh, you like my dress? Like, oh, cool. Like, I got it from here, and this person has it, and I got it off this person's like feed, and like whatever the compliment was. Nope. I just like let it bounce off of me. I repelled that, and actually, I was the same way with gifts. Like, I can appreciate the offer. I see where you're coming from. I hear you, but I couldn't accept it. I like, for whatever reason, I couldn't.
So
And
let's call that out. I want to slow you down and call that out because also characteristic. If I had to write characteristics of of women in their own way, let me add that powerful women who are in their own way and don't recognize their power. To your point about being able to receive, is huge, and not just it shows up in all the ways, right? Love, money, compliments, and in business, you need to be able to receive, right? And ask for what you're worth so that you can receive. Yes, and I think it's so. You hit on something. I was like, yes. I just want to, yes. All of that. Notice that if you're watching, audience, yes, like, how able, how willing, how open-hearted can you receive it? All the things, because it doesn't make you selfish to be able to receive. But first, you got to notice that you've got that block, right? Because the society kind of puts it on. I feel like women specifically are kind of socialized, generally speaking, that it's better to give than to receive. And certainly giving makes us happy, yes. But it's like inhaling and exhaling, it needs to be both, right? And so that's the piece. That's the piece of being able to do both, inhale and exhale. What happens if you only inhale, or what happens if you only exhale? Like, you die.
you need to be able to like,
Yes,
you need to be able to just let go. And like, breathing is something we do without even thinking about it.
absolutely.
And it's when you slow yourself down and like honor it, when you're conscious of your breathing and where that flows throughout your body, and how, whether your breathing is fast, whether your breathing is slow, whether like you feel it in your chest or your stomach or your throat, like notice where that's coming from. I, this is part of what I'm learning right now with human design characteristics and stuff. um when I am not in alignment with what is right for me, and I've shown you this as well in our earlier conversations, when I'm not speaking my truth, when I can't find the words, or when I just don't feel okay to speak, I put my hand by my throat. I feel blocked. And I will feel a physical knot in my throat.
Mm,
It's like this energy, my breath, like everything just balls up right there. And even if I want to let it out, it's preventing me from doing it.
yeah. So, which is an important thing to notice, right? And we talk, and in one of our coaching conversations, we talked about this, and it's like your body mirrors what you feel. And especially when I notice when coaching you, like, you just, there's so many things happening for you at once because you are such a highly intuitive, high functioning, high performing woman, that the idea being people don't realize that what's happening in their body is also a reflection. Everything that happens in our external world is a reflection of our internal world. And I think it's really interesting. We talked about this, like the needing to speak your truth, and it's very interesting, right? Like right here is where things get stuck. And so the idea being that it's really, it's one thing to notice too is what's happening in a person's body. So I applaud you for bringing that up. I'm looking at the Q&A here. Tamara, hey, welcome. That was powerful, being open to receive. Thank you. And then it looks like you answered Amy's question.
Yeah.
Hi, Amy, and welcome. Okay, I think what else? Well, I guess we'll close on the question, and if there's more, but let's wrap up on the question of what would you tell a woman who was you in a previous point in time, but before the awareness, before leaving the job. What would you tell another woman that you feel is the lesson that might help her?
It's really hard to narrow it down to just one lesson. Because there's so many, and certainly if I'm going to mention one that's not in my book because there's more, and you can just like find more answers. But what I wish that I had known earlier, what I wish that so many other women knew now, or like their younger selves needed to know, is that like you can learn from your mistakes. You can learn from your mistakes. You can learn from the mistakes of others. And like the mistake is a learning opportunity to grow and be better. That's what I want for everybody. Like level up. And I don't just mean that like to like shatter the glass ceiling. I mean like even the tiniest little way that you can improve on whatever it is that you're doing. I want women especially to always be improving and bettering themselves, whether that means investing in a course, whether that means hiring a coach to help you break the barriers and like shatter the limiting beliefs. Like there is something that you can do to learn from your mistakes and the mistakes of others. And also recognizing along the same lines is that like those failures do not make or break you. Those no's do not make or break you. You're applying for jobs left and right, you're not hearing back. Next, like that was a blessing in disguise. That means that was not the right position, that was not the right time, that it wasn't for you. No means next opportunity. And the sooner that you can absorb that, digest it, and then spit it back out and keep going, the better you will be.
Thank you, Shell. Powerful. Yes. Thank you for sharing your story. Once again, Shell, and you see my bookmarks, Loving Yourself Isn't Selfish by Shell Shapiro. You can find this on Amazon. Shell, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so my two main platforms are Instagram and LinkedIn. On Instagram, you can find me at Shell Station. That's Shellestation. And on Instagram, on LinkedIn, rather, it's Michelle Shapiro NYC.
Beautiful. Good to be with you today.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for having
Yeah.
me. I love our conversations. You definitely slow me down to like be able to absorb. And for anyone that's here, like I'm sure you can attest to these powers that April has because she takes control just enough to help you get in control of yourself.
Hmm.
Like she's not like claiming it for herself. She is in her own power. She is in her own lane, and she's helping you get there too. Because she has certainly helped me explore different lanes as well.
Oh, thank you, babe. It's my honor to serve you and my honor to represent you and help you. Y'all heard it. Go connect with Shelle. She is a person, if you're an entrepreneur especially, and as a woman on the journey, she's a woman you definitely want to connect with and follow her journey and see how you two can support one another. Is that fair to say, Shelle?
Yeah, I'm open to connecting. I will always try to help you in the right direction. Even if it doesn't make sense for us to work together, I will always connect you with somebody else. I will always like give you a resource, something that you can actually use to get to the next step. So yeah, I'm very open to connecting and meeting whoever is out there that just, wants to be part of it. When I rise, bring you with me. Where we go together.
And on that note, y'all, we're going to see you later. And thank you, Shelle, once again. Thank you for the participants. Good questions. If you have anything you want to connect with Shelle, again, you know how to do that. And also, you know how to find me. So, absolutely drop us a line to let us know how this benefited you. And keep leveling up, to use Shelle's expression.
Yeah. To use your expression, do it scared.
Yes.